and welcome to a cold and windswept Avon Park for round one of the Real Steel Street Machine Rover V8 Championship. The mid-April start date caught a few races out, with 4 entrants failing to turn up on Sunday. The Rover V8 Championship was run as part of a full drag race program. So many familiar cars and drivers were here putting in burnouts. That was the Nobby Hills Racing Corvette, the Hound Dog. Shakedown passes. Here we see a rear-engine dragster called Catch-22. Running with a supercharged V8 engine behind the driver, just tentatively first footing here on the strip at Avon Park Raceway. Fresh back from his trip to America was Alan O'Connor in the ever-popular Howes Gasser. Here he is running alongside G-Force member Mark Flavel in his Super Gasser Chevrolet Monza. Let's watch the start line antics of Alan O'Connor in that black full pot, the nose pointing skyward. Mark Flavel still sitting on the start line. Okay, now let's get back to Rover V8. Paul Atkin was one of the newcomers to Group 2, and after a spinning time on Saturday, was now getting to grips with her 100E. This is a beautifully prepared car. Not everyone was having such a good time. Roy Taylor and his Mazda run, or should I say limped to an ET of 63.52 at 23 miles an hour. And also popping and banging his way up the strip was Phil Herrick in his MG. Poor Phil had worked through Friday and Saturday night and literally finished the car in the fire-up road. But there was no storybook ending, as you can see. On to qualifying. Ian Hampstead managed to get one 12-second timing slip before breaking yet another half shaft. Let's hope the strange shafts arrive soon. Steve Law was another with rear end problems. Over in Group 2, John Wilkin, driving Phil Herrick's old Sprite, was in a commanding position, almost a second ahead of the field. So this was the placings after qualifying for Groups 1 and 2. In Group 1, Steve Green with the Cortina, 10.96 at 125 miles an hour. Steve Birchall, 11.93 at 116. Chris Pegg, 12.35 at 113. Ian Hampstead, 12.36 at 110. Dave Russell, 12.90 at 111. Sixth place was Kevin Jenkins in the Pop. Group 2, John Wilkin on top of the pile with the Sprite, 13.36 at 103. Martin Cowell, 14.31 at 98. Roy Taylor, 14.46 at 95. Ian Hook, 15.06 at 93. Jason Savory, 15.14 at 93. Steve Law, 15.48 at 86 miles an hour. And in 7th position, Paula Atkin, 15.53. In the eliminations, Group 1, Round 1, because there were 6 survivors left when the first round was called, byes were allotted to the 2 fastest qualifiers. Running side by side, we had a pair of Steves, Green and Birchall. Steve Green running an impressive 10.95 at 124 to stamp his authority on the proceedings, while Steve Birchall took a more leisurely 13.37 100 miles an hour route into the second round. The best race of the round saw an even start between Kevin Jenkins and Dave Russell, but Kevin's Pop took the win over the KMA Racing Capri, 11.88 at 123 miles an hour, to a close 12.19 at 103. Poor Phil Herrick, after all that midnight oil, still couldn't get his mean-looking MGB to run properly and was no match for Chris Pegg, although he too seemed to have problems. Chris running a 22.54 at 36 miles an hour must be surely one of the slowest, winningest times ever. Almost looks as though he stopped. In Group 2, Round 1, we had 3 byes because of numbers. John Wilkin far side in the Sprite, and nearest the camera Martin Cowell's Midget. They were the number 1 and 2 qualifiers respectively. Martin gets away first, but the Sprite is soon clawing back the yards and takes the win 13.86 at 103 to the midget's 14.54 at 95 miles an hour. Next pairing, Kevin Williams' Anglia nearest the camera against Jason Savory's Capri. The Anglia left first but slowed dramatically to a 21.05 at 45 miles an hour, allowing Jason to take the win 15.28 at 90 miles per hour. An easy path to round two for William Brown, as opponent Wayne Nicholson couldn't get his pop started. So the minor went through with a run of 17.84 at 75 miles per hour. Paula Atkin read the lights very well, pulling an advantage over Terry Kimber-Smith, who seemed to close the gap at mid-track, but slowed to a 19.35, 63 miles an hour. Paula taking the win 16.98 at 89 miles an hour, but suffering gearbox maladies that were bad enough to put her out of competition for the rest of the weekend. A heavy burnout for Carl Palmer's big black Mark III Zephyr. He was up against Ian Hook's Vauxhall. They come up to the start line, and it's nearest the camo for Carl Palmer. Easing these big cars into the staging beams, and it's the Vauxhall that gets away first, but a blown diff allows the Zephyr to romp away and win 16.05 at 92 miles per hour. A very disgruntled looking Vauxhall owner.
Okay, the right hand lane, the Zephyr goes through at 16.05, 92 miles an hour. Have we got all super gas, please, a streetcar and supercars?
Look, Roy, I'm terribly sorry to bring this up again, but 63.52? That's a hell of a slow run. Even the marshals are willing you on a little bit quicker there. Major gearbox problems was the cause of this extremely slow run from the Mazda. Last to go then, nearest the camera, Graham Reed in his Dolomite, and he had an easy run into the second round with a time of 18.71 at 77 miles an hour.
Those boys will get there with the prize money.
We move on to Group 2, round number 2. Jason Savory was obviously feeling the pressure of facing the quickest car in the class, as he red-lighted and gave the automatic win to John Wilkin. Neither car recording representative times. The pairing of Paula Atkin and Roy Taylor didn't appear because of breakages, and Carl Palmer also failed to show. Martin Cowell was away first and defeated Graham Reed 14.75 at 89 miles an hour to 18.31 at 71 miles per hour. And yet another solo pass for Scotsman William Brown. The minor on this occasion recording a 16.33 at 85 miles per hour run. No doubt as to the sensation of the day, Steve Green being beaten by Kevin Jenkins. That's right, three-year champ Steve made a great start and looked to have the race won, running a more than credible 11.04 at 125. But Kevin's brand new pop sounded super strong, and despite being behind at the tree, motored past the three-quarter track to take the win in 10.84, 124. Steve had no excuses afterwards. It was a perfect run, he said. Chris Pegg faced Steve Birchall in the other semi, but unknown to most people, Chris had blown a piston earlier and was running on only 7 cylinders. Even so, he left together with the Black Escort, but the handicap was too much. Steve winning 11.86 at 112 against the 13.28, 104 Gavin Blues. John Wilkin had another easy round in Group 2 semi-finals, gaining a bye as he was due to meet the winner of the abandoned Atkin-Taylor race of the previous round. Taking no chances, he made an ultra-careful pass at 24.74, 46 miles an hour to advance into the final. In the other half of the draw, Martin Cowell in the red midget faced William Brown in the blue Morris Minor. This should have been an equal race between these two, but as they came up to the start line, both cars easing first. It was Martin Cowell into stage first, but it was the Minor who got away first and was never beaten. The midget running a below par 15.34 at 89 against 14.84 at 87.
Okay, we're in the right.
Let's move into the Group 1 final.
87 miles an hour, left-hand lane.
On the green, the pot was away. The bootleg flying open, and the escort never really got on terms. Kevin winning in 11.13 at 119 against 11.69 at 118. In the Group 2 final, problems with the timing equipment meant there were no times given, but it was an exciting race nevertheless. William Brown's Minor got away first and looked to have the race in the bag, but at the top end it was John Wilkin who took the win light. So here are the points standing after round 1. In Group 1, Kevin Jenkins, 37. Steve Birchall, 25. Steve Green, 17. Chris Pegg, 15. Dave Russell and Phil Herrick with 5 each. And Ian Hampstead with 1. The low ET in competitions, Kevin Jenkins with the full pop at 10.83. And top speed in competition, Steve Green at 125 miles per hour. In Group 2, John Wilkins sits on top of the par with 49, William Brown 35, Martin Cowell 25, Graham Reed and Jason Savory at 15 points, and then Kevin Williams, Paula Atkin, Roy Taylor, Carl Palmer, Ian Hook and Terry Kimber-Smith all with 5 points. The low ET in competition was John Wilkin, 13.86, and top speed in competition, the same man at 103 miles per hour. Crowds descended upon York Raceway for round 2 of the Real Steel Street Machine Rover V8 Championship. The weather was superb, as was the track entertainment, here performed by none other than Steve Murty and the Leyland Wheelie Truck. Look at the control that man has on that vehicle. This meeting was also part devoted to the Euro Series for bikes, and here's a man who's dominated Pro Stock Euro Series racing in the last few years, Jack Valentine, running the 8th mile at York. Steve Green arrived on Sunday morning fresh from running a 10:46 second run at Santipod the previous weekend. A change of rear axle gear ratio and removal of some of the interior to save weight, the major changes. Rumours had it that Steve is planning to fit a full set of glass fibre panels to further reduce weight. Paula Atkin had a new automatic gearbox in her 100E and wanted to thank Kevin Jenkins for all of his help. The man himself appeared with a new wing on the back of his pop, designed to smooth out the airflow, not produce downforce. That was according to a crew member.
Well, Trevor, the power that you get from the nitrous oxide system really is quite phenomenal. How do you see this year? Because you're not on the points table at the moment, are you, in the Open Rover V8 Championship? Are you looking to pick up some points here at York today?
No. I'm not racing this year because in the championship, because it takes up too much of my time, and the orders I've got for my kits are suffering badly through the involvement with the 2 championships that I raced in last year.
Right.
And so this year I've had to pull out of it, but I want to prove a point. I want to prove that this damn car can do a 9-second run. I've told everybody it can, and I'm absolutely confident that it can, given perfect situation. But you know, there's a lot of things between now and a 9.
Well, there you are. That's Trevor Langfield. Will we ever see a 9-second run from his car? Only he and God know.
Trevor Langfield was determined to prove he was still competitive, and an impressive 10-second pass seemed to have secured him the #1 spot. as Steve Green was running consistent low 11s. What nobody knew was that Steve hadn't yet turned on the nitrous oxide.
The #1 qualifying spot pass into the hands of last year's champion. This man I'm now talking to, Steve Green. Steve, an amazing jump from 11 seconds straight into 10s. What is the magic that's connected with your car? Why is it suddenly you lose a second and other people are fighting to lose hundredths of a second?
The earlier runs was without nitrous oxide.
So that's the magic, is it?
That's the magic, yeah. Just flick a switch and picks up a second.
Does it give you a wild ride? Not everybody seems to be talking about nitrous oxide, and certainly on that last run you seem to get a little bit fish-tailed along the strip. How wild is it?
Well, it's not the nitrous oxide, it's the extra power. You know, if the engine was all that powerful originally, you know, it would still drive like that. It's not the nitrous oxide that makes it a handful, it's just the power, because it's still a real car with rubber suspension joints and everything, and it's just a real thrill to drive it like that.
Now, you've always been with the Mark I Cortina for as long as I can remember, with a Rover V8 power plant. Why?
I bought it originally about 12 or 13 years ago with a Rover engine in it. It was going to be a tow car when I bought it, and this is actually the 10th year I've raced it now. I thought I'd race this one to start off with, just get used to it, and this is the 10th year with the same car, so after 10 years it should be going quite well.
Do you ever envisage that Steve Green will come out in anything other than the Mark I Cortina?
I do, yeah. I've got an E-Type at home, which was what this is going to tow. That was being built to run as a modified car, and perhaps one day it will come out. But I like the shape of these cars, and this one has been a real. It's just, you know, as I say, it's still the same car as when I bought it.
Now, what about 1988? You were the champion. How do you see your chances in 1989 with the Real Steel Street Machine Rover V8 Championship? Because there's a lot of competition around this year.
Yeah, Kevin Jenkins has come out this year with his very light pop, a good engine. He's the one to watch at the moment. Trevor's always there, Trevor Langfield. I watch Trevor. Never know what he's doing, nor does he. They're the main ones at the moment, but there's several cars almost running 10s as well. This is going to be the hardest year. I've said that all the way along. Every year it's getting harder. I've had to step on it a bit this year to try and pick up some, which is what I've done since the last meeting.
All right, well, we wish you luck. Let's hope it's another good year for the Green Man, as we call him, Steve Green. Thank you very much.
In Group 2, Stephen Brown arrived with George Leach's old UVA Fugitive and proceeded to run some good 12s without nitrous and without the gearbox maladies that afflicted the previous owner. Carl Monks' Morris 8 was running strong 14s. Jonathan Edwards' Citroën 2CV appeared for the first time, as did Ian Leighton with his Capri. So let's have the qualifying times for this particular event. In Group 1, Steve Green once again on top of the pile, 10.37 at 133. Trevor Langfield, 10.86 at 119. Steve Birchall, 11.28 at 121. Kev Jenkins, 12.03 at 119. Dave Russell, 12.28 at 112. And Phil Herrick, 17.26. In the Group 2 qualifying, Steve Brown was the #1, the man in the Fugitive, 12.69 at 104. Carl Palmer, 13.78 at 107. Bill Brown, 14.12 at 94. Roy Taylor, 14.14 at 99 miles per hour. John Wilkin, 14.20 at 98. Carl Monks, 14.60 at 90. And Martin Cowell at 14.89. With only 6 competitors, the 2 top qualifiers in round 1, Group 1, had byes. Steve Green failed to get a time, but was only doing 88 miles per hour as he crossed the finish line, obviously taking it very easy. Trevor Langfield, on the other hand, decided to have a real go for a low ET, but got out of shape and crossed the centre line when he tried all the nitrous at once, eventually going through the top end 11.53 at 123 miles per hour. This was to cause the first controversy of the day, so let's just have a quick look at that as we freeze frame it and see Trevor's wheels definitely across the centre line. Normally, you would be disqualified for that. Back with real racing, Steve Birchall and Dave Russell had a very close encounter as the KMA Racing Capri got into the 11th second bracket for the first time, on twin SUs even. After a dead even start, the Black Escort won by a car's length, running 11.34 at 114 to a strong 11.53 at 113. However, we have never seen such big smiles on the faces of a losing team before. The final pairing saw Phil Herrick run into more problems with his MGB GT. A new engine should be in place by the next round, but Kevin Jenkins was also in trouble. On his second qualifying run, he had tried a lot more nitrous and torched a piston, so had removed the plug and was running on 7 cylinders only. With smoke coming out of the engine bay, he took an easy win despite running only 16.14 at 55 miles an hour, as Phil Herrick had a backfire through the carbs and had to switch off. We had 3 buys in Group 2, Round 1. Stephen Brown, 14.78 at 74 miles an hour, and brother William, 12.22 at 68. This last was one of the few strange times given out, but as he was one of the first down after the bikes, it was assumed that this was an 1/8 mile time, not a 1/4 mile time. The third buy saw Carl Palmer in the Mark III Zephyr with a 15.46 at 89 miles per hour. John Wilkins left on John Edwards, but the 2CV was soon spewing smoke and had done major engine damage, as a start line marshal was seen to be picking up a conrod that had been deposited on the track by the Christmas tree. The Sprite won with 14.70, 90 mile an hour, against 15.46, 76 mile an hour by the Citroën. An even start and a close finish saw Terry Kinder-Smith to be credited with a losing 11-second time against Carl Monks' winning 14.58 at 89 miles per hour. This was later corrected to 14.48 at 89 miles per hour for the Cobra. A complete mix-up then occurred as Ian Leighton went to face Graham Reed. The Capri was stopped from racing by the scrutineer for not having the proper fire extinguisher. In the meantime, Graham went through on his own in 15.31 at 79 miles an hour. It then transpired that Graham also didn't have a proper fire extinguisher and shouldn't have been allowed to run, so he was excluded, and Ian Leighton went through on his own to get into round 2. The final pairing saw Roy Taylor get away against Paula Atkin, the Mazda taking the win in 13.91 and at 100 miles per hour, the 100E trailing with a blown nitrous line at half track and 15.27 at 86. Round 2 of Group 2, Stephen Brown easily defeated John Wilkin, the fugitive leaving first and recorded 13.10 at 104 to the Sprite's 14.46 at 98. Stephen's brother William strapped a good hole shot on Martin Cowell, but it was all for nothing as another nitrous line broke. It had been rubbing on the bodywork, and he slowed to 15.06, 86, allowing the midget pass to take the win. Carl Palmer got the advantage off the line over Carl Monks, the Zephyr winning with a best ever of 13.53, 107 against 14.5 Morris. Reinstated, Ian Leighton pulled a red light to eliminate himself. Roy Taylor therefore taking the win 13.88 at 101. We move on to the semi-finals of Group 1. Steve Green made his usual razor-sharp start and made Steve Birchall look slow, but the Escort had problems with the nitrous, hence the 11.25 120 mile an hour lose against an amazing 10.39 135 mile an hour win. With the other pairing there was even more drama. 7-cylinder Kevin was upset by Trevor's byrun and staged quickly, starting the 20-second countdown. Trevor was leaking transmission fluid from a blown seal, but got a red light letting the pot through anyway. The semi-finals of Group 2. The fugitive took the expected win against the midget after an even start. Stephen Brown was ahead by the tree and never challenged by Martin Cowell. 12.82, 104, taking it over 14.14 at 98. Prior to his race, Roy Taylor reported that he hadn't had any problems all day, but Carl Palmer changed that by getting away first and winning a close race 13.88 at 102 to 14.10 at 101. The odds were obviously stacked heavily in favour of Steve Green in the final of Group 1, and he made no mistake mistake, running a new personal best and championship record time of 10.35, 135 miles an hour. Kevin Jenkins, despite the lack of power, launched really hard and stood the pot right up his back wheels. The huge wheelie did little for his time as he trailed across the finish line 14.65 at 58 miles per hour. The Group 2 final was a tense battle of nerves on the start line. Carl Palmer held back trying to outwit Steve Brown, but the fugitive driver wasn't to be flustered, and the two cars left together. The Zephyr soon fell behind, and the win went to Steve Brown, 12.80 at 105 to 14.03 at 97. Here's the points then after round 2. In Group 1, Kevin Jenkins, 62. Steve Green now in second place, 56 points. Steve Birchall, 40. Trevor Langfield and Pegan Warren, 15. Dave Russell and Phil Herrick, 10. In competition, the lowest elapsed time was Steve Green, 10.35, who had the quickest speed as well at 135 miles an hour. After 2 rounds in Group 2, John Wilkins still sits on top of the pile, 64 points. Bill Brown, second place, with Martin Cowell, 50 points each. Stephen Brown, 47, Carl Palmer, 42, Roy Taylor, 30, Graham Reed, 20. The low elapsed time in competition was Stephen Brown, 12.80, and the top speed in competition was Carl Palmer at 107 miles per hour. Back to Avon Park, near Stratford-upon-Avon for round 3 of the Real Steel Street Machine Rover V8 Championship. Mega weather, mega crowd and mega entry formed part of a hectic race meeting which provided non-stop action all day. No doubt the large entry and large crowd was partly due to the presence of BBC's Top Gear cameras. In fact, one of our racers, Graham Peach, even took the BBC presenter for an excursion up the quarter mile. I'm not certain she was that happy about it. It was nice to see Jim Bishop back in the thick of things with his very neat little 1958 Ashley Group 1 car. Jim was seen looking very thoughtful in the pits and said he was ironing out the problems. First time out for Bill Geising in his Immaculate Consul Capri.
We're seeing the Mark 1 Capri in the right-hand lane window.
Martin Cowell had finally cured the misfire in his midget and was looking very cheerful. A loose jet in his carburettor, we are told, was the problem. Saturday's times counted towards qualifying, and the talk of Group 2 was Jeremy Atkinson's 105E Anglia hitting a low 12-second pass. Sunday morning's big event was Terry Kimber Smith getting wildly out of shape and stuffing the front of his Cobra into the Armco. A broken oil cooler spread lubricant across the track, but thankfully Terry was okay and repairs to the car were easily completed in time for racing. Kevin Jenkins was now in the low 10s. So let's have a look in Group 1 qualifying. Steve Green on top of the pile, 10.25 at 136 miles per hour. Kevin Jenkins, 10.46 at 129. Steve Birchall, 11.15 at 123. Chris Pegg, 11.61 at 123. Trevor Langfield, 12.43 at 106. Jim Bishop, 15.54 at 91. And Phil Herrick, 20.56 at 61. In Group 2, Jeremy Atkinson was number 1, 12.24 at 110. Martin Cowell with the same terminal speed, 12.54. Steve Brown, 13.13 at 103. Bill Geising, 13.31 at 92. Phil Herrick, 13.52 at 107. Steve Law, 13.89 at 106. Roy Taylor, 14.09 at 99 miles per hour. In round 1, the fastest qualifier, Steve Green, got the bye run, and it was just as well as he did because it looked like he forgot to turn the nitrous on. He almost stalled it on the launch, running a 12.29 second time, but it obviously cleaned out at the top end as he recorded a new championship record of 141.4 miles per hour. Steve Birchall had no problems beating Jim Bishop, but the Ashley is beginning to get quicker. 13.76 against 11.24 and 120 miles per hour. Kevin Jenkins strapped a whole shot on Trevor Langfield and won easily, 10.64 121 against 12.05 with no terminal speed. An even start and good launch by the MGB went from nothing as Phil Herrick slowed at mid-track, allowing Chris Pegg to take the win in 11.52 over 16.44. On to round one of Group 2. Going by his qualifying times, Jeremy Atkinson should have had no difficulty in beating Karl Monks. But a misfire and a dead-even start made for an extremely close race, as the Anglia squeaked through 14.04 at 84 against 14.09 85 by the 50-year-old Morris. Phil Herrick and Ryan Reed left close together, but the Sprite moved ahead for the win 14.08 at 106 and 14.95 at 92. Roy Taylor's neat Mazda had an easier time against Mike Zeckley's Aileen Victor, winning easily with a 13.72 102 to defeat a troubled 16.74 at 89 miles an hour. Paula Atkins' smart 100E held on to Steve Brown's Fugitive up to the Christmas tree, as the Scottish racer spun the tyres quite hard. But as expected, the quicker car took the win, 13.52 at 100 mile an hour over 15.87 at 103. Martin Cowell was away first and never troubled by Ian Leighton's Capri, 12.89 106 miles an hour, taking it against 15.21 at 95. Wayne Nicholson had been having plenty of problems with his pop and only got in the elimination when another racer withdrew. But his problems didn't end there, as he overstaged and drew a red light, giving an automatic win to Steve Law, who ran his Escort through in 15.86 at 75 miles per hour. Another red light victim was Carl Palmer, who also overstaged his Zephyr, giving a surprise win to Terry Kimber-Smith in the Cobra. The last appearance saw first-timer Bill Geising lead well ahead of Jason Savory and take the battle of the two Capri generations, his 13.07 at 111, too much for the missed shift and slower 16.00 at 93. In round two, Phil Herrick had obviously had no difficulty getting back into the driving seat of the Sprite, as he led Jeremy Atkinson off the start line, but the Anglia's superior performance told at three-quarter track at 12.64 at 111 to get over 12.98 at 109. Taylor rolled through the staging rings and got the third red light of elimination, allowing Steve Brown an easy pass into the next round at 15.46, 60 miles per hour. Martin Cowell and Steve Law left together, but the midget driver got him on the gear shift, and the Escort wasn't in it after that, trailing with a 14.3097 against the MG time of 13.15 at 105. Bill Geising progressed by easily putting out Terry Kimber-Smith 14.59, 65 miles per hour to 16.93 at 75. And it's back on with the semi-finals in Group 1. Facing one another once more, the two Steves. Steve Green in the Mark I Cortina and Steve Birchall in the Mark I Black Escort. Well, both of these drivers taking this very, very seriously indeed. They've met on numerous occasions before. Steve Green even going through a practice launch routine, all important, of course, in drag racing. So here they come, back now behind the start line, preparing for their race. This dynamic Dagenham duo who've given us so much pleasure in their racing before. Who's going to get to the top end this time? The tree burns down. And they're away together, Birchall and Green, but after 200 yards, the big blue Cortina moves in front, and the result was never in doubt. 10.32 at 134, taking it over 11.36. Kevin Jenkins read the lights better than Chris Pegg and led all the way to the finish line. 10.49 at 117 by the Pop, prevailing against the Escorts 11.73 at 123 miles per hour. In the semi-finals of Group 2, we had two good competitive pairings in prospect. Jeremy Atkinson had the performance to beat Steve Brown, but he spun the tyres very hard off the line, and the fugitive driver pulled ahead to take the win 13.18 at 101 over 14 seconds. A close start in the other race saw a surprise win by Bill Geisen in his Consul Capri over Martin Carroll's Midget. The smart green Ford winning a very even race, 13.58 at 89 miles an hour against 13.72. So on to the final of Group 1. Various delays, not all due to the TV people, meant that it was gone 7 p.m. by the time the fastest pair of the day and the leaders in Group 1 fittingly met in the final. Both cars were put through very, very heavy burnouts, as that position at the top of the table could change as a result of this race. So the two cars make their way up to the start line, but it was Steve Green doing an immaculate job of judging the lights to perfection, who gave Kevin Jenkins no chance at all. The Cortina heading to victory in 10.13, 132 miles an hour, against a misfiring 10.71 effort from the block. In the final of Group 2, it was almost 7:30 by the time the last two survivors made it to the start line. Most people were expecting the fugitive driver to take his second win of the year, but in a major upset, Bill Geisen got into the 12-second bracket for the first time and took the trophy after an even start, winning with a 12.93 over 13.46. So here's the point standings after 3 rounds. Steve Green goes back on top, 95 points. Kevin Jenkins put down into second place, 87. Steve Birchall, 55. Peg and Warren, 30. Trevor Lanefield, 20. Phil Herrick, 15. Dave Russell, 10. Steve Green had the lowest ET at 10.13 and the best terminal speed, 141. In Group 2, Steve Brown is on the top, 82 points. Wilkin and Herrick, 79. Martin Carroll, 75. Carl Palmer, 57. Roy Taylor, 55. William Brown, 50. Bill Geising, 47. The lowest ET in competition was Jeremy Atkinson, 12.64, and top speed in competition, 111 miles an hour from Atkinson and Geising. It was action right from the word go as we journeyed back up to York Raceway, the most northerly drag strip, for round 4 of the Real Steel Street Machine Rover V8 Championship. Again bathed in sunshine, the 21-strong Rover V8 entrants were ready to do battle, or should I say most were. The unluckiest, but probably one of the most cheerful of racers, must be Wayne Nicholson, who keeps returning round after round trying to get his pop to run like it should. With a misfire cured and a new Ford gearbox, it was looking good, but clutch slip was a possible worry.
Well, another one of our road-going Ford pops that are involved in the Rover V8 Championship is this beautiful example here of a 1954 Ford pop in the hands of Wayne Nicholson, called Born to Run. And Born to Run is not exactly the sort of luck that you've been having with the car, Wayne, is it?
No, it's been a bit, shall we say, problematic so far. We're just about getting there. The problems we've had have been small problems that have taken a long time to iron out. Touch wood, we haven't had anything that's been big. It's just the little niggly things that take a lot of sorting out, which we eventually get in there now.
Well, in this round of the Rover V8 Championship, it's nice to see that you seem to have just crossed over the hump and things are now coming together. You're putting in decent runs on the strip.
Yeah, we're on the top of the hill now, and I think hopefully it's going to be downhill from now on. The car is capable of quicker times, and I'm sure if I pull myself together as well, it will be.
Now, the car's a very strikingly good-looking car. I must compliment you on the looks of the machine. Well, just tell us a little bit about the history of the actual car itself. I know it's a 1954 Ford pop.
Yeah, the car was advertised in a local paper as a partly completed project, which when I actually went to see it was only just started. I bought the car from somebody that lived in Dewsbury in West Yorkshire. I got the car home and we started pulling it to pieces. So we basically built the car from nothing, in effect. It started off as well, what I hoped would have been a street rod. Eventually, it's over the 2 years it was in progress of being built, it's turned into a street car come road car. You know, and now we're racing it. But It's taken a while to build, but we're pleased with it so far.
And are you enjoying the racing in the Rover V8 Championship?
Yeah, very much so. I'm learning a lot, making a lot of friends, learning a lot about cars, drag racing, learning about myself, and I'm not giving in yet.
Great. All right, Wayne. Well, good luck for 1989, and let's hope we see this car going quicker and quicker and quicker.
Steve Law was another who had been busy, but was more concerned with a change of name of his Mark 1 Escort, now dubbed Coleslaw. That was his old schoolboy nickname, since other people were using his original outlaw choice, but the car was running well. Qualifying was notable for a couple of events. Phil Herrick doing double driving duty again. Paula Atkin ran even quicker using the nitrous for the first time, dropping her 100E into the 12s. But it was Steve Green who once again looked to be the star of the field with a run of 10.25. So here we are in qualifying. Group 1, Steve Green top of the pile 10.25, down to Jim Bishop 14.54 at 95 mile an hour in the Ashley. In Group 2, Paula Atkin with that run in her 100E sits on top of the pile 12.83 at 107. Steve Brown 12.92 at 103. Martin Cowell 13.31 at 108. Steve Law 13.50 at 105. Bill Geising 13.59 at 109. Jeremy Atkinson 14.29 at 104. And Roy Taylor 14.29 at 95 miles per hour. Group 1 round 1 of the eliminations, there were 3 byes because of the number of qualifiers. Steve Green and Steve Birchall did their run side by side. Steve Green put down an impressive 10.71 at 107, but the mean black Escort got into the 10s for the very first time.
Well, busy work for Chris and Simon, the mechanics, for this young man, Kevin Jenkins, with his very fast Ford Pop. Now, Kevin runs in the open category for the Rover V8 Challenge. And Kevin, just come in a little bit. You've been running some really great 10-second passes in this car, haven't you?
Well, some low 10 seconds, yes.
What's the secret of a 10-second Rover V8 engine?
A lot of money, basically.
Is that really it? I mean, I know this is what Simon and Chris are doing here at the moment. They're sorting out your nitrous system, and does a lot of your power come from the nitrous unit?
Not at the moment. I mean, it's running low 11s without the nitrous, but it's caused me a few problems. I'm trying to get it sorted, but it's getting there.
The other thing with full pops, and I've always asked this question of people like Alan O'Connor who drive the same sort of thing, there is nothing aerodynamic about a sit-up-and-beg full pop at all. What is it like when you're hitting the top end about 120 miles per hour?
To be honest, it's quite boring. It goes dead straight and there's nothing to do, really.
No, you've just ruined my dream.
It is, it's boring.
Okay, so your main adversary has got to be Steve Green. I mean, with that, the Rover engine Cortina is running on song at the moment. What's your view of Steve Green?
As a driver, he's cracked, but as a man, as a human being, he's a very nice man. But as I say, he's got a few marbles missing.
You've got a lot of work to do to try and catch him, though, because he really is on song. He's about half a second quicker than you at the moment. Is that half a second within your reach, do you think?
Not with the time I've got to play with a car. I think with a bit of salting it might be, but at the moment, no, it's not.
Well, a lot of thanks must go to the man who's built the chassis here, Bob Nixon, yeah?
Yes, he's worked very hard on this car, he really has. You know, he's all credit to Bob, he knows pops, you know, he really does know the car. So.
Good, okay, well, Kevin, good luck for the rest of the season. I think you're in number 2 position at the moment, aren't you, behind Steve?
Yeah, I'm 8 points behind him at the moment.
We wish you luck. Good luck, Kevin Jenkins.
That was the number 2 qualifying Jenkins. Phil Herrick and Jim Bishop squared off for the only race, and the Ashley driver got the drop on the normally quick MGB driver. Phil also messed up the shifts going from 2nd to 5th and had to switch on the nitrous to pull him through to take a close win, 14.06 at 104 over 14.33 at 100. In Group 2 round 1, Paula Atkin collected the easy route into the second round as the quickest qualifier, running through in a steady 14.77 at 90 miles an hour. Bill Geising made no mistake against Graham Reed, getting away well in front and staying there to win 13.36 over 15.04 at 91 miles per hour. Roy Taylor also led Terry Kimber-Smith from wire to wire, winning in 13.99 at 99 29 miles per hour to 17.70 at 50 miles per hour. Ian Layton produced a lot of wheel spin as he was staged in some concrete dust used to clear up an oil leak. But even so, he got out ahead of Martin Cowell, but the midget managed to get back for the victory, 14.02 at 106 against 14.71 at 93 miles per hour. The two Scottish brothers met in the first round, and Bill, using a 2-pound engine in his Minor, dumped in nearly 400 horsepower of nitrous to try and defeat Stephen. Phil Herrick did a good job of reading the lights to leave on Jeremy Atkinson, who desperately tried to catch up and got badly out of shape, crossing the centre line to automatically lose. But Phil was well ahead anyway, winning with 13.23 at 107 to the Anglias 14.37 at 109. Poor Wayne Nicholson got hit with the jinx once more, as coming to the line the marshal noticed an oil leak and made him shut the engine off. It turned out to be coming from a pipe on the oil cooler. Another frustrating day for Wayne. Carl Palmer took the single to advance into the next round in 15.38 at 81 miles per hour. The closest race of the round was certainly the one between Steve Law and Carl Monks. The Escort moved just an instant ahead of the Morris and took the win in 13.24 at 106 to 13.54 at 104. Although eliminated, Carl was extremely pleased to have got into the 13s and also topped the 100-mile-an-hour mark in one go. Nice one.
The Rover V8 Challenge is about two different classes of Rover V8 powered machines. One is the open class, which can mean you can do virtually anything to your Rover V8 power plant, and the other one is more to keep the cars street legal. And we've got a fabulous example here for you to look at, the Ford Capri of Bill Geising. Bill, this really is a superb, original looking street car.
Yes, that's right. As much as possible it gets driven to the strip. It wasn't driven all the way here today, basically because it's 200 odd miles and there is always a possibility of breakage, but generally speaking it's driven at least 2-3 days a week anyway. Covers a couple of 3,000 miles a year. So it is a genuine road car, yes.
And I understand you've already taken some winning laurels with the machine. Did you have a win just recently?
Yeah, we had a rather surprising first time out win last round, which was very nice. It was, I think, as much as a surprise to me as it was to everybody else. But in fairness, the car put in very respectable time, and it was by no means a win by default, so we were quite pleased.
Okay, now going back on my knowledge of this type of car from when I was a lot younger, which was hundreds of years ago, yeah. These were very, very light on the back. And I do remember years ago when people used to race these cars just on the street, that they used to put bags of cement in the back because you've got a huge area where you can land a Harrier jump jet on the back here. Is it the same for a drag racer?
Well, I have heard this problem mentioned by many people before, and I have to say, to be perfectly honest, that it's a problem that it doesn't suffer from. I mean, to some extent this is down to the fact that the rear axle is properly tied into the car now. It has a Bob Nixon semi-floating setup on the back using an 8-inch Ford axle, which in itself is a lot heavier anyway, but the axle location, I think, is the prime problem, and that has been well sorted on this car, so no, the problem doesn't exist.
And all the work on the car, apart from the Bob Nixon setup at the back, is all your own work?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, the axle, I installed the axle. It was welded together and made to be the right size by Bob Nixon, but yes, everything else is down to me.
And a very collectible car as well, I think.
Well, yes, indeed. Possibly slightly less collectible now, but, you know, you have to pay the price, don't you?
Good. OK, good luck to you, Bill, for the 1989 championship.
Thank you very much.
Paula Atkin looked to have a tough race on her hands as she came up to face Bill Geising. But the Consul Capri driver rolled forward in stage and drew a red light. Bill was horrified, throwing his head back in disbelief at his mistake, as Paula again got into the 12s, 12.94 at 108. In other races, Martin Cowell beat Roy Taylor off the line, and then the Mazda driver missed the shift into second, the midget winning with a 12.77 at 109 to 15.21 at 91. Phil Herrick got cressed up, allowing the fugitive to get by and take the victory 12.91 at 102 against 13.30 at 107. Steve Law had the whole shot of the round as he defeated Carl Palmer Zephyr by a wider margin than the difference in times, 13.27 106 over 15.32 at 90. The semi-finals Group 1. In the rerun of the first round byes, the result went as expected, as Steve Green in the right-hand lane wheelied away with Steve Birchall failing to find any grip at all. Instant wheel spin leading to a wildly out-of-shape run, 10.25 at 135 for the Cortina against 14.82, 99 miles per hour for the Escort. Kevin Jenkins was taking it very easy as he put away Phil Herrick, 12.66 at 90 miles per hour to 14.70 at 105. We move on to the semi-finals of Group 2. Both pairings looked on paper to be extremely close, and so it proved. Martin Cowell again got away ahead, this time leaving Paula Atkin trailing and unable to catch up. Although her 13.27 at 108 was no match for the midget's 13.03 at 109. Martin was seen pushing the car off the top end of the strip, and there were anxious faces in the pits. Steve Law again did a good job on the tree, but it wasn't enough to hold off Steve Brown, and the fugitive just took it on the line, 13.00 at 101 over 13.40 at 106. Neither of these racers have used nitrous yet, which just goes to show what can be done if the car is set up correctly. Providing us with a little bit of alternative entertainment was the southern man Ronnie Picardo in his state-of-the-art Kenworth jet truck. Just watch him go. Fantastic. We move on into the finals of Group 1. Steve Green had to be the favourite, and at the green light he was gone. Front wheels higher than ever before to lead Kevin Jenkins by a wide margin as the Pop started to trail blue smoke. Unfortunately, there was no time given for the Cortina on what was undoubtedly one of his quickest runs ever, just a terminal speed of 136 miles per hour. Martin Cowell's problem was a broken distributor, and he elected to fix it at the end of the strip rather than tow back to the pits. In installing the replacement, it got put in 180 degrees out, and therefore the engine wouldn't start. Time was going on and Steve Brown was lined up at the end of the far-out road waiting to go, and it looked like the midget wasn't going to make it. But at the final attempt, the dizzy was dropped in about right and the motor fired up. No chance to check the timing. Martin raced down the return road and straight up to the line where Stephen had sportingly waited when he heard his opponent was on his way. However, the rush had obviously upset Martin as he was slow on the lights and the fugitive led all the way to the finish. Group 1 then, the points standing after the fourth round. Steve Green still on top of the pile with 134. He also had the low elapsed time in competition of 10.24 and the top speed in competition of 136. In Group 2, Steve Brown sits on top of the pile, 129 points. Martin Cowell, 114. Martin Cowell had the best ET, 12.77, and three people, Cowell, Atkinson and Brown, had the best speed of 109 miles per hour. A fitting climax to the most successful year of the Rover V8 Championship, with some of the closest and most competitive racing in its 4-year history, saw 18 entrants gather at the BDRA World Finals at Santapod. The weather was great, people started taking up their positions early for the event of the year and the drag racing calendar. Even in this late stage of the season, we were able to welcome two new faces in Group 2. Looking Droop Snoop Forenza and Barry Biddington's very smart Pop. Barry had run 14.2 at Northfield without nitrous, and despite a misfire was equaling that performance. Here we see Barry running alongside Paula Atkin at an earlier qualifying run. A very smart looking machine indeed, and certainly with those spoke wheels really does give it an air of muscle-bound power. Ian Hampstead was also back in the fray with new bulletproof half-shafts installed and fresh from running at 11.25 at Gary's Picnic, but after a hard launch in the second session the clutch gave way. By the end of the second session on Saturday, the two tables looked like this. Group 1 qualifying. Top of the pile, Chris Pegg, 11.03 at 126. Steve Green, 11.38 at 110. Kevin Jenkins, 12.41 at 98. Ian Hampstead, 12.63 at 77. Phil Herrick, 13.15 at 106. And Jim Bishop in the Little White Ashley, 13.58 at 96 miles per hour. In Group 2, the qualifying looked like this. Number 1, Jez Atkinson, 12.15 at 109. Steve Brown, 12.54 at 109. Paula Atkin, 12.58 again at 109. And Martin Cowell, 12.67 at 109. Palmer 13.61 at 100 miles per hour. In Group 1, Round 1, there were only 6 cars in this first round, so the fastest 2 qualifiers, Steve Green and Chris Pegg, didn't have to run to save time. Kevin Jenkins faced Phil Herrick, and neither car made a very good launch, but the Pop was quickly ahead, taking the win 11.67 110 against 15.27. Ian Hampstead had replaced the clutch and once again left the line really hard, but a cloud of smoke at the top end indicated more trouble. But he did get to the finish line in front of Jim Bishop. His slowing 12.44 at 110, enough to defeat the Ashleys' subpar 14.14 at 101. In Group 2, Round 1, Jeremy Atkinson set everybody back on their heels with a great 12.09 at 109 miles per hour, the quickest ever by a Group 2 car. Steve Brown also eased his way into the next day at 13.64, 88 miles per hour. In contrast, Paula Atkin took it easy with a 14.39, 96 miles per hour, and Martin Cowell completed the course in 13.27 at 106. Steve Law should, on paper, have had little problem in facing Barry Billington, but the escort driver was somewhat apprehensive as he was trying nitrous for the first time. His fears were justified as a broken half-shaft put pay to his weekend and allowed a surprise Pop pilot to motor pass and take the victory 14.95 against 19.07. Mike Zeekley's misery continued as the Vauxhall Victor broke in the far-up area and couldn't make it to the line, allowing Carl Palmer an easy single at 15.62. Phil Herrick and Roy Taylor had a real tussle. After an even start, it looked like the Mazda was ahead from the trackside, but the Sprite got there first in 13.05 at 107. Another close pairing saw Graham Reed and Adrian Booth lead dead together, but the Forenza ran out the winner 14.82 at 89 over 15.57, also at 89 miles per hour. Group 2, Round 2. Second round action on Sunday was as hot as the weather, with plenty of surprises in store. The first of these was Barry Billington putting out favourite Jeremy Atkinson. Jeremy Atkinson's nitrous bottle had leaked overnight, and he also had problems with the torque converter, losing 16.74 against 14.76. Martin Cowell made no mistake against Adrian Booth, the midget running better than ever at 12.46 110 without any laughing gas. Two title contenders faced off in the next pairing as Phil Herrick came to the line to race Steve Brown. And although the Sprite driver was right alongside the fugitive at the start, smoke at half-track indicated problems. Steve winning with a consistent 12.50 at 111 against 13.44 at 104. Paula Atkin took a slight advantage over Carl Palmer, and the 100E kept the lead, moving into the semi-final with an impressive 12.27 at 111. The semi-finals in Group 1. Ian Hampstead couldn't fix his clutch in time, so Steve Green had a solo run into the final. But he put on a real show for the crowd, running a super 10.07 at 136. This was bad enough news for Kevin Jenkins, as his only chance of taking the title was gone. But even worse was to come as Chris Pegg dipped into the 10s and took the win despite getting very close to the centre line. The semi-finals of Group 2. Barry Billington's run of good fortune came to an end as Paula Atkin made no mistake leading from start to finish. The 100E's 12.46 at 110, easily outpacing the Pop's 14.29 at 93. Steve Brown had held an edge over his closest rival all weekend, and when he put a hole shot on Martin Cowell's midget, everybody thought it was all over. What we didn't know was that Martin was trying the nitrous for the first time, and he became the first ever Group 2 car to run an 11-second run, winning in 11.72 at 120 miles per hour. The final of Group 1, well, this was Chris Pegg looking to improve on his first 10-second run. But with the title won for the 4th year in a row, Steve Green was determined to go out on a high. In Group 2, it was Paula Atkin against Martin Cowell in the midget, and the midget took the win 11.56 at 120 miles an hour, and that was his first trophy in 15 years of drag racing. So here we go with the final point standings at the end of this very long year. Champion in Group 1, Steve Green, 173. Steve Green also had the lowest elapsed time in competition, 9.87, and the top speed in competition, 137 miles per hour. Congratulations to all the other runners-up. In Group 2, Martin Cowell finished on top of the pile, 163 points for him. He also had the lowest elapsed time, 11.56, and the best speed in competition, 120 miles per hour. Again, congratulations to all the runners-up.